Yo, what's poppin', guys? Today I am proud to present with you the new Zephyr brew I've cooked up for Master Duel here. I've got a bunch of engines. As you can see, this plays more akin to the older ZEFRABOMINATION variants. Very, very nice. You have a ton of gas to power through hand traps, a ton of gas to power through other disruption when you're trying to break boards, and you have a lot of variability here, so you can change your lines on the fly to adjust to something that you draw off Electrumite, to adjust to a random hand trap that's coming out of nowhere, to adjust to if you have deck knowledge, you might want to go for a different line or something. So it feels very, very nice. We still set up crazy boards, and it's very, very resilient with a ton of pushes that we have. So today I'll be going through my deck choices here. Then I have some replays showing off what the different lines do, how you can build boards with this deck. And then I have some playing through Ash Blossom and even through Droll and Lockbird, which is usually the nail in the coffin for these types of decks. Alright, so starting off, you might be wondering why we're not playing the Master Duel attacks. There's no Maxi, there's no Ash Blossom, no Call By, no Crossout, no Gamma. And while you could play those, I found myself wanting more engine pieces just for having more options, just more and more. So I started cutting out some of the answers to Maxi. We started with the Gamma because I don't want to see the driver, then the Call By because we're playing the super heavy package, cross out for that reason as well. And then we only had Ash, which honestly, you're not going to see the Ash Blossom that often in 60 cards. It's very bad against the fire decks because they just make Hita and keep playing as if you never ashed them to begin with. And just having the Maxi was kind of like an empty threat, where if people call you out on it, you have no way of actually punishing them for trying to OTK you. You can draw 40 cards, it does not matter, will not stop your opponent if they kill you that turn, and you're not finding an out to Maxi anyways. So I just opted for another high impact hand trap, the Droll and Lockbird. This hits quite a few decks. It's technically searchable with Oracle if you make a synchro and then an exceed using Zephyr monsters, but that's not really a real play. Maybe it'll come up. I'll be sure to save the replay if it does, but I just felt like this was a very nice hand trap. I could even consider not running any hand traps at all, maybe adding in another engine card or something for another push, but that's what I opted for. For the engines, of course, we're playing the Zefras, 3 Zefra, 3 Oracle, 3 Zefra, Providence, and then we have 1 each of the Teller ones, just for the utility and the level 4 access. And then we're also playing 2 Zefranu here, because we want to find the counter trap and some follow-up as well. This is all that we're running, so we have 1 low scale for the Zephrath, and then we have a few high scales just as the options. You would usually make Zephrath into the high scale here, which does conflict with the Supreme King engine because those are level 7s, but there's still ways to play around that. You'll see some in the replays. Speaking of the Supreme King engine, this gives so much gas. We've already been playing the Dark Worm and the Gate Zero together with the Dragon Shrine and the Foolish Burial, and now on top of that we also get the Supreme King Gate Magician, which is a free special summon. It's a level 7 as well, so together with Astrograph or something, it makes a absolute dragon for Vortex. Very nice. This also searches you Wings of Light, just to get more advantage into rotation. I don't think that the usual payoffs for this, like the Pendulum Evolution or the Supreme King Soul and Celestial Soul traps, are worth it because they do take too much commitment in the extra deck, and I really want to keep the utility that I have there. And then of course we also get to play the Light Worm, which is very, very nice. It's a high scale, which will let you pend out even your 7s, and it's also a tuner, plus it gives you recursion. If you summon it out, you get to add back another Gate Magician or something to your hand. Very, very nifty here. Then we're also playing the Draco Slayer package, so we have 3 of the red one, 3 of the pink one, 1 green one, just to legitimize combos where you open something like red pink or the red luster, which we're also running 1 of here. And we have the Joker to search for our Revolution Dragon. And this is really cool because the Draco Slayers effectively bridge all your engines together, because you can have the Joker for the Revolution, and then that can search for something like your Lightworm or your Darkworm here. You also have the Majesty Pegasus, which can search for your Sky Iris to get to the Revolution to find the Darkworm. You have the Majesty Pegasus to search for your Oracle of Zefra to get the Zefrath into rotation. Or if you don't need any of those, you can even search for a Necro Valley just to have another disruption on your end board. And for our final engine, we're running a slightly larger super heavy package. We're on 3 Wakaushi, 3 Motorbike, of course, and 1 Benkei. And then we also have 1 Soul Peacemaker, 1 Scales, and 1 Soul Piercer. The point of this is it lets us set up an Omni Negate before committing to our normal summon or our Pendulum summon. And then if you use your normal summon, you'll have the material necessary for it. You get to make a Gallant Granite here, which actually searches for your Zefrath. So you actually just get to access your counter trap through the Zefranu into Divine Strike off of just opening a Wakaushi or something. And then we also have the Destrudo, just so the Foolish Burial or the Dragon Shrine don't end up dead if we open multiple, or we already have the Darkworm here. As well as if you open the super heavy engine, you cannot lead with Dragon Shrine because it turns off your super heavies, and you can't lead with the super heavies because it turns off Darkworm bringing itself back. So we have the Destrudo here to combo from there. For our extra deck, we're on a Vortex and the Absolute matching it, and we are also on Ancient Fairy Dragon. This is also really nice to potentially bridge some engines by popping your Oracle of Zefra or your Sky Iris. It can also get you to Necro Valley, and it's a level 7, which you can then overlay for the Absolute Dragon. So that also comes up very, very nice. And you can also special summon out a guy for free from your hand. Just make sure that you don't do it going second, because that turns off your battle phase. We're running 1 Clearwing Synchro Dragon. This is primarily a target for the Supreme King Gate Magician to summon itself. The other target I would consider running is the level 4, the rank 4 Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon here. You can also send this, you can also make this, could also potentially give you a push. I opted for this because you can make it off a Destrudo, so that's just another option you have. Do remember that it will actually prevent you from sending it from the extra to the graveyard, so you can't special the Gate Magician. It's just more of a backup plan. We're running the Borreload here because it's a more compact line for the super heavies. So instead of having the Axel Synchro into the Baron play, we condense them into 1 extra deck slot, giving us the Boral Savage Dragon here. You can also make this a bit easier in engine, as we have a ton of level 4s, and we can have the Majesty be a tuner, we have the Lightworm as a tuner, Wakaushi can be a tuner. So I think this is overall just slightly better than the Baron, even though Baron of course has its own advantages, like the combination with the SP Little Knight, or being able to clear up your scales or something. We're running Baguska as our backup plan. Against Maxi, you can oftentimes make something like Necro Valley, Baguska, and a counter trap, and that will usually let you survive and then keep playing afterwards. Gallant Granite is here to search Zefrath off of the super heavy line, so that also gets your counter trap in rotation. That's very, very nice to have. Absolute, of course, for the Vortex. We have 1 Scarecrow here that we're using for our super heavy line. And then, of course, Electrumite, bridging all our stuff together, enabling some nice interactions. You'll see them in the replays in just a bit here. There's stuff like the interaction with the Astro and the Supreme King here to get out your 7s. There's also some other nice stuff, like, of course, we need to clear your scales if you need to search for another engine piece or something. It's very, very nice to have this. Of course, a staple in all the Pendulum decks. We have the IP, great end board piece here. Beyond the Pendulum helps us in lines where we aren't using the Zefrath, because everything else, of course, is live in our scale. This can help find matching scales, help break boards, go second. If you don't want to run through a Zefrath or something, you can also just search the ZEFRABOMINATION off of it and still access your counter trap here. SP Little Knight is really great, especially if you use it and then when it like banish itself and an opponent's card, when it comes back, it will actually go into the main monster zone. So this actually gives you 2 link arrows additionally to your extra monster zone. So very, very crazy interaction. Exceed the Pendulum helps you make your Appaloosa here before you commit to your pen summon, as well as giving you a ton of arrows. So this is very, very important since Nib is a pretty popular card right now. You also get to just search for some other stuff back. This card is really great. There's some really nice support for pendulums. Apple here, of course, mainly to play around Nibiru. We usually make it with 2 materials. Do be careful if Super Poly becomes a thing again. You don't really want to end on Apple plus Vortex or the Apple plus Baron, which we aren't running in this build, but potentially could be a consideration again. And then we have the access code talker just to help close out some games. All right, so without further ado, let's get straight into the replays, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, our hand is giga juiced. We're going to be leading with the Skullcrabat Joker here. Now, the reasoning for this is that the Dragon Shrine and the Super Heavy lines turn each other off because Dark Worm needs no monsters on the field, and the Super Heavies need no spells in the graveyard. But we do run Destrudo, so we can use the Dragon Shrine later anyways at no loss. And if we do get disrupted on our Super Heavy play or something, like they Ash it, we could just use the Dragon Shrine there. But to play around the Ash, or even an Imperm or something, we start with Joker, which is a massive hand trap magnet because it does give great advantage. So as we carry on with our usual Super Heavy line, this is basically what it's always going to look like. If you have a normal summon, you can go ahead and use that to try to bait some stuff, but you don't actually need to normal summon during this line at all. Now you get the negate, it's before the pen summon, it's potentially before the normal summon. You could use it here to make a Gallant Granite to search for Zefrath, which is a rock, but we have the Oracle already, so there's not really any point. Gonna go ahead and use that, grab our Zefrath for the ZEFRABOMINATION, and this is where we just make an IP just for the link arrows, just to get some free advantage. And now I'll be showing you guys how to properly play the Supreme King Electrumite interaction. So as you can see, we have the Supreme King Gate Magician in our hand, and we're going to go ahead and make an Electrumite here. This is of course going to send the Astrograph. And now pay attention here, we're going to use Electrumite to pop our low scale here, but we do not chain the Astrograph. So as you can see, Electrumite drew a card, and we didn't chain Astrograph. We're going to actually scale the Gate Magician and then use its effect to place the Gate 0. And now since one of our cards has been destroyed, we get to actually special summon out the Astrograph, search for a new Gate Magician, and since we have Supreme King Gate in our scale, we actually get to summon out the new copy as well, which we'll be doing right after we go into our Ancient Fairy Dragon here. Just want to clear up the zones before. It's going to search for a Necro Valley since we do get to pop the Oracle. Now it's pretty cool that the Ancient Fairy Dragon is also a 7, letting us go into the Absolute Dragon. And here's where we'll be summoning out the Gate Magician in order to get some free plus, some free card advantage. And now we'll just link it off and go into a 3 material Appaloosa and summon out a Vortex here for free. Of course, we search for our counter trap here, and then we go for our Necro Valley. So we set up a nice board here, and our opponent lets us combo off to just show how to build this board and then gracefully surrender. Alright, here we're fighting against the entire country of Albania, and we did manage to unfortunately draw the scales, which is a brick here, and Destrudo isn't the best to have either here. We do fortunately get a Supreme King line live here, so we're going to go lead with that. Go straight for an Electrumite. I'm going to search our high scale already here. Pop it for the Astrograph. Ignis gets the float, so we get our tuner. Very, very nice here. And the best part is we get to search for our Zefrath while also sending Destrudo to the grave for a free body. This is super duper nice because as we make the Exceed the Pendulum to make an Apo before our Pen Summon, we now get to search for our Counter Trap off of the Zefranio. And you might notice that we are lacking a tuner for the Boral Savage and a second 7 for our Absolute Dragon. So what we're going to do is, since we've pen summoned out the scales here and we did draw into our Soul Peacemaker, both normally terrible bricks to have, but we get to actually use its effect to search for a Wakaushi, which we can then sync her off as that one is a tuner, and that makes our Boral Savage. And now the Destrudo that we have previously discarded, it's going to come back. I'm going to make sure to get the Zefranio into the extra deck to make the Counter Trap live. And we make our Ancient Fairy Dragon, which not only pops the Oracle here to search for Necro Valley, it also summons out a free body, which gives us another plus here. And now, as it is a 7, we even get to overlay it into a Vortex, which we're going to link off into IP, and the free body that we summoned out will now be an additional body we get to just spend to make an SP with our Masquerena. Now this offers us a ton of disruption, and it's impossible basically for our opponent to win. We're going to make sure to use our spot removal on the Cyber Dragon with our toggle on, so they don't just Mega Fleet off our Apo. Probably should have negated this here. And we're going to chain SP here for sure to make sure we remove this from the field because it is a Cyber Dragon name. And they could again just Mega Fleet our Apo. I'm going to use a negate on that card because it gives a lot of advantage. Apo negates this here, but they did chain block it for another Cyber Dragon. Mega Fleet does come out, but it's simply not enough. And we're just going to pen summon a bunch. To go for a bit more damage, we're going to make our Dweller here, which I was still running then. I have since swapped it out for Access Code, which also just trivially finishes the game here. And we will just swing for lethal after getting a ton of advantage and making sure none of their graveyard effects will work here to prevent us from finding game. Alright, in this replay we actually open a pretty juicy hand. We have the Astrograph as well as the Foolish Burial. We don't even need the Wings of Light to combo here, since we get to go for Dark Worm for the Gate Magician. And now when this pops itself, we actually get to summon out the Astrograph right off the bat. Now this line is going to lose to Nibiru at exactly 1 point, but it does be virtually everything else then. I'm going to go ahead and grab our high scale here already. And we're going to go into the Absolute. I would recommend placing your scale here before you go into Beyond the Pendulum. And we're going to activate the Beyond here as well as our Absolute. And if they do try to nib you here, you can still negate it, but as soon as the Beyond resolves, you cannot activate monster effects. So if you have the Lightworm in scale already, then there's even less of a window for your opponent to respond. If they don't have the toggle on, they won't be able to use the Nibiru. They'll just miss the window because you can instantly pen summon and your negate is live once again here. Alright, we're just going to go grab a bunch of plus here. Gonna add the Necro Valley, pitch the worthless super heavy samurai scales here, and search for our counter trap. Now we're gonna keep comboing a bit more, just finish it right off with our IP here and a big Appaloosa. And as material for our Little Knight, we're gonna be normal summoning the Dark Worm. Now our opponent here, very salty. I'll let you guys form your own opinions about what kind of person this is. But you'll see what they were doing during this entire match when you see the victory screen. Kind of sad, honestly, if I do say so myself. As you can see here, they actually ran down the entire timer because they were just that mad. Oh well, happens. Free win. Alright, so in this replay, we're going to be using a lot of Foresight. for our lines. You'll see later what I mean. We're going to get Ash here right off the bat. Makes the game a bit more fun because we get to actually play through hand traps and not just auto win or auto lose to max C. So of course we're going to lead with the Dark Worm. We already have the Gate 0, not the best, but this does let us special summon this out for free. So we get to go straight into Electrumite here. We have the Ignis Phoenix in hand, which of course we're going to pop. It feels so great. I'm going to send the Astrograph here as per usual. Pop the Ignis Phoenix, add back the Astrograph, summon everything out here, get a ton of plus. And we draw into the Divine Strike. So at this point, I realize, oh, I no longer need to go for Zefrath. What I was going to do here was use Majesty Pegasus to search for Oracle to get Zefrath, to get Zefranu, or just search Stray Zefranu and scale the Light Worm, and that way we get access to our counter trap. Now we drew this off Electrumite, and I see we have a Zefra card in rotation already, so we're going to completely skip all that other stuff, and we're going to adapt our line to play around this. Now we're going to just discard our Ignis Phoenix that we got for free here. And the really cool thing is, with the Exceed the Pendulum, we get to add back the Astrograph, and then make sure we set up our scales. We get to revive the guy back from the graveyard. Now he goes to our face-up extra deck, so we don't even lose out on our discard. We have the Appaloosa before our Pendulum Summon. We're making sure to keep our tuner that we have here. Now if we went for a line with Zefrath, we would have probably scaled that, and then we could consider using this as our tuner. And now here we have 2/7, so that's going to be an Absolute Dragon. And since we have a nice Link 3 in the graveyard, we're going to go straight for the Overload using our tuner here. Make the IP. You could consider SP right here, but I think just IP gives you more utility. You'll just sack the Apo or something, or if you have a 1 negate Boral Savage, you can sack that as well. You could also consider negating here with the Vortex Dragon to start recovering resources. Now important, since we do have the Divine Strike, you have to make sure you keep at least one face-up Zephyr monster in your extra deck, which is going to be ours of Fraxitron here. So make sure not to shuffle that one back, that would be bad, because it turns off your counter trap. Now, I decided to negate with the Borreload Savage, because this card was going to leave the field anyways, and if they activate something in the hand maybe, since the Borreload Savage does not destroy, I might want to actually get rid of that card with the Vortex Negate. This is negated by Necro Valley since it would shuffle back, and since I don't actually have any outs to this, I'm just going to SP Little Knight, sack the Apo, and then banish that. For a turn we just draw the Wings of Light, which doesn't matter. We already have lethal on board, 8100, and we swing for game. In this replay, I'll be showing you guys how to play around some hand traps. So we're going to lead with the Wakaushi here. We're just going to go for the standard line. And right here, we see that they have a response. So we're thinking it's either Imperm or Ash. They have no response here. So we pretty much know it's Ash. We already have the scales here. And we do just have follow-up plays to just keep going afterwards. See if they want to use the Ash early here, but of course the target is the Soul Peacemaker. All the greedy lines that don't normal summon early do lose to Ash right here. But since we already have our scales, it doesn't even matter. So they're going to Ash here. This is definitely the correct choke point for them. And we're just going to go ahead and search for our Zefrath. This gets us our counter trap, which is arguably just more important. And now we get to use the Sky Iris here, and I'm just going to pop the Soul Peacemaker. That's just going to grab us another body here anyways. And then we can recycle it with the scales once again. I'm going to go for the Dark Worm because this does give us the most advantage. Gets us a search for the Gate Magician here. I'm going to pen summon all these guys out. Chain all of our effects here as well. Very beautiful. And now we actually get back these guys. Synchro this off into the Boral Savage. The Ash Blossom never mattered. We have a nice negate here. And now we can just go into Electrumite and keep comboing from here. Popping the low scale. And once again, here's the line. Make sure not to use the astrograph here until you scale the Gate Magician, and you'll be triggering the Astro off of the Gate Magician, finding a new copy. And now since you do have the Gate 0 in scale, you get to summon this out for free. We have 2 7s on the board, and we're just going to go ahead and get that Destrudo into rotation as well. Ancient Fairy Dragon turns this worthless field spell into a Necro Valley. Wings of Light just going to go ahead and grab some more follow-up. And we're going to go for an Exceed the Pendulum here in order to conserve some material on the field. 2 mana Appaloosa is usually just more than enough. And now we make the IP here. Get out the Vortex, find our counter trap, and slap the Necro Valley down. And our opponent lets us finish our combo and then surrenders. Alright, in this replay, we're going to be opening our Droll and Lockbird, and we're also going to be playing through a Droll and Lockbird of our opponents. So going for the normal Supreme King line, we see that our opponent Drolls us here on Dark Worm effect. So normally we just combo off all the way, but Droll will prevent us from getting to something like the Necro Valley, from getting to our counter trap. So fortunately, the Rhoda for the deck is a quick play, so you can chain it to the Droll and Lock here, and it will actually still resolve. Now we're going to use this to get another Supreme King Gate Magician, and we're trying to make a Vortex here. So getting Zefranio into rotation is kind of pointless, unfortunately, because we can't actually search for the counter trap off of it. So we're going to have to see how we can get 2 7s on the field. And looking at our scales, unfortunately Zefrath only goes up to 7. So we're actually going to use the Supreme King Gate Magician here and go into Electrumite. Now Electrumite doesn't add from the deck to the hand, it adds from the deck to the face up extra deck. So what we can actually do here is just sack our Zefrath, which we don't need this turn, to actually search for the Lightworm under Droll. Now we have a high scale here, and we get to pend out 2 7s and just an additional body. And that's going to let us go into the Absolute Dragon and then make a big Appaloosa here. So this is still 5 points of disruption. It's 3 Appo negates, a Vortex negate, and Droll. Our opponent leads with Pot of Desires, so we're going to let that resolve and just Droll and Lockbird afterwards. They find an Imperm, which would trade with all 3 Appo negates. So of course we're going to use the Vortex here, and our opponent swiftly surrenders. By the way, this was a misplay. Since I only have Zefrath and Darkworm in the extra deck, I should have definitely shuffled back the Zefrath here, so we can have something to pend out next turn, regardless of if I draw something or not.